Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are on page 223 of your student journal. And our goal or our objective is, today I will interpret, which means make sense of or understand, and order the absolute value of rational numbers, period. Okay, so our big idea right now is absolute value. This is something that we haven't talked about yet. So let's look at our vocab. We have what positive rational number terms are: above sea level, in the air, above zero, a credit. We have some negative rational number ideas that we've talked about, which would be below sea level, in the ground, below the zero, or a debit. And then they remind us what a rational number is, but here's our new idea. What does this absolute value mean? Absolute value is the distance between 0 and any rational number on the number line. So -4 and 4 are both 4 units away from 0. So even though 4 is here and -4 is here, absolute value means how far away from it is 0. So positive 4 is 4 jumps from 0, and -4 is also 4 jumps from 0. So that means that they are the same. So the absolute value, which is this symbol right here, I'm going to make it a little larger. The absolute value, when I have these two vertical lines, that means the absolute value of -4 equals 4, because it just means how many spaces away from 0 is it. So the absolute value of -9 is 9, because it means -9 is 9 spaces away from 0. That's what absolute value means, is just how many spaces is it from 0. Okay, so our steps we're not going to worry about, but I'm going to get started and show you what this looks like. Okay, so our first problem is, my first problem, says this. It says an account balance of 330. Okay, well, a balance means a positive. So a positive 330, but the absolute value, which are these two vertical lines, means that it is 330 spaces away from 0. That's all it is the absolute value of 330 is 330, because it's 330 spaces away from 0. Okay, let's look at our next one. It says place the absolute values in order from the least to greatest. Okay, so the absolute value of 3.5 is 3.5. 3.5 is 3.5 spaces from 0. The absolute value of -5.4 is actually 5.4, because it's 5.4 spaces from 0. They don't care if you're moving to the left or the right, it's just how far is it from 0. Okay, the absolute value of -9.6 is just 9.6, because it's 9.6 spaces from 0. And then the absolute value of 8.1 is 8.1, because it's 8.1 spaces to the right of 0. So again, it doesn't matter which direction you're going, it's just how far you're going. So if we were going to put these in order from least to greatest, my least one would be 3.5, which is absolute value. So I'm going to write it here where I have a little room. Absolute value of 3.5. The next least one would be this one, which is absolute value of -5.4, because it's equivalent or equal to 5.4. And then the next one would be 8.1, the absolute value of 8.1. And then even though that was a negative, that's my greatest one, because Again, it's not what it's worth, it's how many spaces is it from 0. So this would be how I put these from least to greatest. So how I chose to solve that problem was to rewrite them all as positive numbers. I think that that helped me make a little more sense of it. Okay, so let's try some together. We're on page 224. And our first one says a debt of 125. Okay, so a debt is a negative. So a debt of 125 looks like that, but we're doing the absolute value of it, which is our 2 vertical lines. So the absolute value of a debt of negative 125 is actually 125, because it's just 125 spaces away from 0. Again, we don't care if we're moving to the left or the right of a number line, we just care what it is. Okay, let's look at number 2. So remember, absolute value, we don't worry about the negative because it just means how far is it from 0. So this is 7.5 spaces from 0. This one is 2 1/3 spaces from 0. This is 10 1/10 spaces from 0, and that is 4 1/5 spaces from 0. So pay attention, this time they want it from greatest to least. So which one's the greatest? The greatest would be this one, which is actually a negative. So negative 10 1/10 absolute value is the greatest. My next greatest would be absolute value of 7.5. My next greatest would be absolute value of 4 1/5. Make sure it doesn't look like a 14. And then my least one would be a negative 2 1/3 absolute value. So again, how we solved that is we looked at them all as positive rational numbers, just because it was how many spaces away is it, and then I wrote them out. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, you have a couple pages to try on your own. Have a great day.